25, 1946, a mob of over 30 white men lynched two black couples near Morris Ford Bridge in Walton County, Georgia, in what has been called the last mass lynching in America. The victims were siblings George W. Dorsey and his 7 months pregnant sister Dorothy Dorsey Malcolm, as well as their common-law spouses May Murray Dorsey and Roger Malcolm. 2 weeks earlier, Roger was arrested after allegedly stabbing white farmer Barnett Hester during an altercation. On July 25th, J. Lloyd Harrison, the white landowner for whom the Malcolms and the Dorseys sharecropped for, drove Mrs. Malcolm and the Dorseys to the jail to post a $600 bond for Roger. On their way back to the farm, the car was stopped by a mob of almost 30 armed, unmasked white men who drugged Mr. Malcolm and Mr. Dorsey from the car and tied them to a large oak tree nearby. George, a World War II veteran who had served in the Pacific for 5 years, had only been home for 9 months at the time. Mrs. Malcolm recognized members of the mob, and when she called on them by name to spare her husband, the mob took her and Miss Dorsey as well. Mr. Harrison watched as the white men tied all 4 of them to trees and riddled them with over 60 bullets shot at close range. The white men then hung the bodies over the bridge to hang in the oppressive Georgia summer heat and humidity. Despite Harrison's version of events, many in Walton County believed that he was a Ku Klux Klan member and bailed out Mr. Malcolm with the intention of releasing him to the Klan mob. Harrison even claimed during the investigation he couldn't identify any members of the mob, although he witnessed the entire ordeal, a lie only a Klans member would make. The Morris Ford Bridge lynchings drew national attention, leading President Harry Truman to order a federal investigation and offer $12,500 for information leading to a conviction. A grand jury returned no indictments, and none of the murderers were ever held accountable. Truman later referenced the Morris Ford lynching as influencing his decision to create the President's Committee on Civil Rights and to integrate the military in 1948. The FBI reopened its investigation into the lynchings in the 1960s, only to encounter continued silence and obstruction at the highest levels. In response to charges that he was withholding information, Walton County Superior Court Judge Marvin Sorrells, whose father worked for Walton County law enforcement in 1946, vowed that, quote, "Until the last person of my daddy's generation dies, no one will talk." In recent years, the tragic lynching at the Morris Ford Bridge has inspired varied activism, including an annual memorial march and legal efforts to gain access to the sealed grand jury transcripts. In 2019, the United States Court of Appeals for the 11th Circuit in Atlanta ordered the release of the grand jury transcripts from 1946 in a 2-1 opinion. Yet still, the deaths of George Dorsey, May Murray Dorsey, Dorothy Dorsey Malcolm, and Roger Malcolm remain unsolved and without justice. And if you didn't know, now you know.